And I'm gonna go live. Got it. And hey, you're on Lunch Conversations with Randy and Teddy. For those who've never met me, I'm Randy, and the gentleman in the yellow with the shiny hat is my
That's me.
cohort, Randy Wooden. Our special guest today is Mayor Alan Joins, the mayor of Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and we'll talk with him in a few minutes, but let's get the show started. I hope that I got it all set up and it's going where Randy expects it to be going. It kind of looks like to me it is. Are we good to go, Randy?
We are, I believe so.
Good stuff.
Yes.
Man. So
I believe so.
You doing all right, man?
Yeah, doing all right. Ready for a great show today. We're in what show? 130, 131?
131. Yeah. So
wow.
We're on live on Facebook. We're live on LinkedIn. At least I'm pretty sure we are. So you want to go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience, Randy?
Yeah, sure. Randy Wooden with Goodwill Industries of Northwest North Carolina, director for our professional center. We help professionals in their search, as you might expect. We are free. We do work by appointment, though. And if you're, or maybe somebody you know is in a job search, have them reach out. You can find me on LinkedIn. And twice a week, I get together with my good friend Teddy Burriss, and we do a little Monday show, but we also do a really cool Wednesday show where we bring in guests to talk about a variety of topics that we hope are of interest to you. And including this week, we've got a local mayor here. We're going to have a better understanding of what goes on behind the scenes and a little bit more about his background and so forth. But Teddy, throw it back to you to get things started. And if you have comments, questions for Mayor Alan Joins, put them in the chat. Yeah. I'm happy to try to work them in if we can.
Cool. So real quick, I'll thank our sponsor, the Elder Law Firm out of Greensboro, North Carolina, for sponsoring Lunch Conversations with Randy and Teddy. If you have a family that you want to help as they transition through life and need estate planning or elder care planning, reach out to the Elder Law Firm in Greensboro, North Carolina, 336-396-4551, and let them know that Randy Wooden told you to give them a call. So for those who've never met me, I'm Teddy. I'm a LinkedIn strategist, trainer, and coach. I teach business professionals how to use LinkedIn as a business tool. Teach corporate training programs. I do one-on-one coaching. I have a YouTube channel. It's all about using LinkedIn, a Quora space. I stand on the streets of downtown Winston-Salem and with my sandwich boards teaching LinkedIn as a business tool. I probably shouldn't have said that with the mayor on the call, Randy.
Do you have a license to do that? Yeah, you need a permit, don't you? You need a permit.
So our special guest today is Mayor Alan Joins of Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Alan is a really interesting guy. He is not one of these show up and run away guys. He's been around for a while. We'll talk about that in a minute. But Mayor Alan Joins, would you introduce yourself to our audience at a high level, please?
Absolutely, and good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Andy and Teddy, thank you for inviting me to come on. As was alluded to, I've been mayor for 21 years. It's interesting, when I was first asked to run, I said, well, I've never run for anything in my life, but I've complained about why can't we get people to run who maybe have a genuine concern. So I said, I'll give it a shot, maybe one term. So that was 6 terms ago. And it's like it's always something you're trying to finish up. But I'm from North Wilkesboro, Wilkes County. I went to undergraduate at Appalachian State. I had a degree in political science. Then I went to the University of Georgia, where I got a master's in public administration, and came here to the city, worked in the city staff side, ended up as deputy city manager, and then retired from the city. And I was actually hired or recruited by Bud Baker, you might recall, was the head of Wachovia Bank before all the various mergers and acquisitions that occurred there. It started this organization called the Winston-Salem Alliance, which is a nonprofit development corporation that's charged with really improving the economic vitality of our area and creating jobs. So I've been wearing both hats for again over 20 years. It's been a great ride, and I've enjoyed it and continue to enjoy it.
Yeah. So it's good stuff.
Good deal.
Yeah, you became mayor about the time I moved into town, and I kind of figure I ran the other mayor off, but you've hung out with me.
Yeah, that's right, Ted. I moved here in 2000, and you started what, 01, right? Was it 01?
Yeah, I was elected mayor in 01. Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. Wow. Long time.
So you cool. I mean, you're a North Carolina native. You spent 30 years working in the city, and so that's got to position you way better than most mayors of most towns. What do you think was the one thing that or a couple things that you got out of working in the town before you became mayor that really helped you be better for our community?
Well, I think one of the things I got as a staff person was what an elected official shouldn't be doing, or well, trying to work as a staff and get something done, and seeing the impediments sometimes an elected official would kind of put it in the way and really bring politics into a issue that should be just pretty well straightforward, decision.
Yeah.
So what I've tried to, and I talked to my staff here in the office, is that I want the mayor's office to be viewed as a partner for our staff, city manager, assistant city managers, whatever it might be, to get things done. That being said, we do have a responsibility, obviously, as the elected head of the city to represent the citizens. And sometimes we'll get a little bit, not adversarial, but we will be much more of an advocate for something with staff that we see as some needs that need to be changed in terms of a policy or a program that might need a little bit of attention, so to speak.
Yeah.
But also, as staff, I understood exactly how city government worked. I knew where all the money was hidden at one time, budget. That's a good thing. Understand the budget. When I first came here right out of grad school, my first role was in the budget office for several years. So that's a key part of understanding city government. It's big business. We've got a budget of something right at approaching $600 million annually. So it's something you have to know all the various intricacies of it. And so much of our spending is controlled by the state government and the local government commission, what we can spend for, what you can't spend for. So it's a pretty steep learning curve for someone coming in without a lot of background in it.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah. So I like the fact that you are first and foremost the mayor for the citizens. Working within, as I heard you say it, working to be a partner with all of the city agencies that are responsible for doing what they need to do. You try hard not to make this political, as you said it shouldn't be. Right, it really shouldn't be. It really shouldn't be a Democratic way of paving potholes or Republican ways of picking up the trash. It should just be, good customer service and good getting things done attitude among our staff, which I think we've done a good job with that. Yeah, I get it. If there was a Democratic way to doing potholes, a Republican way to pick up trash, and it should be our way to do that. That's right. If it's a better way, Right. So
I was gonna ask a question here too. Just out of curiosity, because I wanted to kind of peel back and get also to learn about the younger Alan Joynes growing up. And you mentioned he went to App and then went to grad school. You didn't get into politics as an elected guy until you ran for mayor. But growing up, were you involved in student government? Were you involved in leadership kind of roles where it sort of whet your appetite a little bit? Said, this is some place maybe where I can make some impact.
I never ran for any offices within the school or that sort of thing. Yeah. But I was in some leadership roles with clubs and things of that nature. And I think the Boy Scouts, I'll have to say, I'm an Eagle Scout, and I think that gave me a lot of background. In fact, I was picked by representing the whole Wilkes County district to go to this National Junior Leader Training Program. I guess when I was about 13 or 14 years old, up in Mendham, New Jersey. And so here I was the only boy from the South in this big camp and training program, 2 weeks. And I remember they would gather around and want me to speak, say 18 or say something like that. So, but I learned a lot of good leadership skills there, and then came back and helped work with troops in Wilkes County to taught courses and things of that nature. So I've always had sort of a interest in that and how to get things done.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. We'll learn more about some of that. I know, Teddy, I want to just interject there, so I'll throw it back to you.
All
but
good.
yeah,
So,
by the way, if you have comments or questions for Alan, put them in the chat box. I'll keep an eye on that, try to work them in.
Yeah. So here's one, Alan. I mean, I get it. Somebody came to you and said, we would like for you to be a part of this process. We'd like for you to consider, if I heard you right, consider being mayor of our town. But what was your thoughts about, I get it. You've never been elected before, but you knew that moving into being the mayor of Winston-Salem, that there was going to be political pulls left and right. What were your thoughts about getting into that space and knowing back then politics was pretty rough to be a part of? It pretty strict guidelines that you had to follow. What were your thoughts about joining that space?
Yeah, I probably was a little bit naive, to be honest with you, because I had not been in that realm very much. So as you mentioned, the pushes and pulls, the calls you get saying, oh, so and so, they are one of your key supporters, or they gave you a lot of money, so on and so. Need to take this call, need to talk to these folks. And so there's a lot of that. And that was a little bit foreign to me in terms of how I operate, how I get things done, and just really to look at what needs to be done, what are the priorities, and kind of working from that. Yeah. One of the things I kind of learned the hard way was how much individuals see the role of the mayor, as the elected head of a city. And got to be careful how you might phrase something. You might just off the cuff and doing a TV interview say something that was maybe a little bit flippant, perhaps, or a little kidding, and that would be taken very much the wrong way sometimes. So I learned to try to give my 30-second responses in a very cohesive kind of way, a cogent kind of way.
Yeah, I get it. So I'm not going to ask you for your favorite restaurant. I'm just not going to ask that, because we got a lot of really cool restaurants in our town, and I personally know that. But here's the other big thought, because I mean, you're 50 years into working for this town in one way or another. That's a lifespan for a lot of people.
Yes, sir.
30 years as an employee and on the staff, and 21 years as the mayor. I want to ask it bluntly, Alan. Why do you keep doing this?
Yeah, great question. And I think it's just, I love it. I mean, I love the town. I love getting things done. And I think the role in the mayor of a city our size, 252,000 people, it's a large city, but it's still small enough that you can navigate around and get things done. And I love checking boxes. I've got my list of things I'm trying to accomplish. Mm-hmm. You can check some of those boxes off and get things done. And somebody was asked the other day, aren't you ready to retire? And I said, well, what would I do? I'm a wake up in the morning and want to get things done kind of a guy. And I just can't wait to get down here every day to get cranking on things and think about it over the weekend, think about what we want to try to do. And we're fortunate that we've got a great city staff that we work with. I've got a great city council that we work with. And so it's just kind of fun to kind of advance the needle, if you will, for Winston-Salem. We've come through some difficult times. I used to describe us, when I was growing up, there was this toy, had a balance, you could punch it and it would fall over and then pop right back up. Kind of thing. Describe Winston-Salem as sort of like that. We've had some hits over the years. We've lost some corporate citizens, and we've had some difficult times. But we've always been able to bounce back and come back, sometimes even stronger.
Yeah,
it's just fun to be a part of that. I think.
I get it, and having you said a great staff and a great city council, and then like I said, 252,000 is a whole lot of people. But the people who are absolutely active in the town, I would wager that, you over your years have made some really rich connections with our citizens, our business leaders, our business owners, and, even down to I'm not belittling this, but even down to the baristas at the restaurants. mean, it's some cool people in downtown Winston. That's got to add to the pleasure of being the mayor.
You're exactly right. We've got such a nice mosaic, if you will, of folks in our city, from the bartenders to the baristas to whatever it might be. It's great. You can interact. I love walking down the street, and folks will sometimes say, "Aren't you the mayor? Or, aren't you somebody?" So,
they do that with Teddy too, but it's for a different reason.
Yeah, right.
I got to ask you this. There was you talked about I think it was a blow. I had one of those. It was a blow up, looked like a clown or something like that. And he'd push it and it would come back. And I made it into a punching bag until I think I broke it. But we've invented ourselves as a city. And, you've shepherded this through the last 20 years from textile and manufacturing to now a bit more on the high tech side. We've had, a good bit of banking over the years and whatnot. One of the questions in the chat area dealt with how you attract businesses to the area. Are there certain initial approaches? How do you go about if you will, recruiting folks to come to the Winston area?
Yeah, I mean, economic development, when you're creating jobs, there are three ways to do it. One is recruiting. That's the most probably sexy one of them because it gets the most notoriety. Matter of fact, there's an article in today's paper about a company we're close with, keeping our fingers on, that will create about 500 jobs and make a $50 million plus investment here. So, it's a number of ways. First of all, the Greater Winston-Salem NC under Mark Owens is sort of the out front group that does the advertising, the media, the social media that gets our name out there. Then working very closely with the North Carolina Department of Commerce and the Economic Partnership of North Carolina. All that marketing is out there. I think Mark Owens told me we've got almost 72 companies right now in our pipeline that are very stages looking at us. But where the city really gets heavily involved is when that company is getting close. They may have narrowed it down to us and two other cities, for instance. And then we have to structure an incentive package in most cases. And nobody really likes incentives, but it's a necessary thing you've got to play in that arena if you're going to be competitive. And what we do is structure our incentives as a real true pay for performance. We don't pay any money up front. We will return a portion of the new taxes that a company pays us for a period of time. For instance, this company that we're talking to right now will invest $50 million. So we've agreed to return 50% of their new taxes over a 7-year period. So what that means is from the very beginning of their operation, the city will net new taxes that we'll keep, and we'll return a portion of it over a 7-year period as an inducement for them to come here. And that doesn't even count the sales taxes that the company pays, or the sales taxes that will come from the salaries of the individuals who are hired, which I believe the average annual salary is about $60,000 for this company. So it's a good solid thing. And of course, Randy, you work in Goodwill, you know the importance of the jobs and the good technology kind of jobs. And it's kind of a rule of thumb for manufacturing. For every one manufacturing job that we create here, there'll probably be an additional 2 to 3 follow-on jobs from either suppliers or companies that provide services to this new company. So it's a multiplier effect, if you will. But so, and a lot of times as mayor, I'll get involved in the negotiations with the company. A lot of times they want to hear from the elected leadership that they're coming into a city that's fairly stable. And that's one thing we can say is that we've got a stable government. Our taxes and fees are the lowest of the major North Carolina cities. So that's a good thing. It means we're an efficient run city, if you will.
Yeah.
Cost of doing business is lower than on average. So we get involved in those discussions and just try to hold their hands and really to say to them, look, we've been doing this a long time. We know how to do it. We know kind of what you need, Mr. Businessman or Mrs. Businesswoman, excuse me. And that we will love you going forward. If you need to expand later on down the road, we'll work with you then. And we've had several examples of bringing companies in. They got a good solid base here and it's expanded and need a little help to expand. And so we came back and worked with them again. So that's kind of how we get involved with these companies. You don't win all of them. Out of that 72 that's in the pipeline, we'd be lucky to get 2 or 3 of them. So just got to keep pitching.
So it is gotta keep swinging, Teddy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
yeah, absolutely. Got to keep working. And the cool thing is the diversity of the businesses that are all around our town. I mean, I get it. Winston-Salem grew up being a tobacco town. And today we are way more than just a tobacco town. And it's fun to see that growth and that diversity that's happening, that's bringing in a diversity of more and more people, who become these employees, become our neighbors, et cetera, et cetera. And our neighbors around town often are, from my perspective as a business owner in the town, and Alan, I live in Advance, but I call Winston my town. But all our neighbors around us, and watching that diversity grow and all the ideas are coming, is really, for me, rewarding to see our town grow within and around. So, all right, I'm gonna spin to a whole different question, and I'll come back and talk a little bit more about the work. 2018, you got recognized, I think it was by Revolution Magazine.
Mm-hmm.
As one of the top 10 fittest mayors in our county. This is 2018. This is 4 years ago. Talk a little bit about why did they recognize you? What did you do to make that happen? Maybe there's some of us that need to understand a little bit more about what you did to become known as one of the top 10 fittest mayors in the country.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how my name got into the mix, but they did the interviews and kind of looking at what I was doing. They found out that I work out religiously at least 4 days a week. And then I'm also I've been doing intermittent fasting for almost 4 years. And so they thought the combination of the nutrition side of it and the exercise kind of came together to create this more healthy kind of lifestyle, if you will. And I try to, you got to find it every day to get out there. And I worked out this morning, didn't feel like it exactly, but once you get in there and get it done, then you feel good coming out that day. But so that, I think that's kind of what they came about, and it's kind of fun to be picked that way.
I get it.
Some mornings I don't feel like I'm the most fit, but I hike regularly. I do 2 hikes, one in the spring, one in the fall on the Appalachian Trail. I do about a week by myself out in the hinterlands, if you will, and it's a great way to recharge the batteries as well.
Clear out the mind.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah. So, and that's got to be important, not only for yourself, but for yourself in the environment that you work in. I mean, your staff, the citizens, the businesses of this town need a healthy mayor. And so, I would imagine it's rewarding for, again, I'm gonna say it, for yourself, but the importance for that and to continue doing what you're doing. Randy?
Yeah, and aside from the workout and such, what are some other hobbies you have? Want to get to kind of know you, some of the things that excite you, and when you have spare time or you carve out spare time, how do you spend it? What are some things you get involved with?
Well, I love to cook, so I'm always looking at new recipes, trying things out there. But I like woodworking. My dad was a carpenter, so he was always, working with his hands, doing things. So I've got a pretty good little workshop in my basement. I just actually finished kind of a rustic bench that for a place up in the mountains that I found some really neat piece of wood that I just finished that up yesterday, actually. Play a little golf occasionally, not as much as I used to. One time I was a fairly decent golfer, but so get out and do that. Love to read. Usually have a couple books going just to help you get to sleep at night as well. But it's kind of rewarding. And of course, the hiking side of it, being outdoors, it's just as you mentioned, Teddy, just recharge batteries, clearing the cobwebs. I think you use that term, and I think that's true. And it's amazing being out by yourself when you're walking on the trail, hiking on the trail. No interference, if you will, with the thought process. And sometimes there's some thoughts that might come up that you not necessarily want to come up, but they will, and so you got to kind of deal with them, and helps you.
Now, do you get also unplugged, you get off the grid a little bit? There's got to be some benefit to that.
Absolutely, because I do take my phone, but I keep it turned off because one, the battery's going to go, and so I'll click it on, maybe check messages at night or something like that. But just being unplugged, I worry about it. I carry two phones, the city one and the Alliance one, and we're constantly on duty, on call, and so. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I envision, phantom buzzing in my pocket when I don't have the phone in there. So I think we've gotten so indoctrinated into that.
And then too, and Teddy does this from time to time. He's got his Alexa right near him, and he'll say a word that sounds like that. Son, where's that coming from? Who is this strange voice I'm hearing? And so you just we're plugged in whether we like it or not, it seems like, unless we make it intentional to get out and about. So that's good to know. I always enjoy getting to understand the background with folks and some of the things that motivate them and really drive some of the passions that they have. So that's cool. Good stuff. Teddy?
And Alan, you got a volunteer part of your world as well, where you're helping out in the community in lots of different ways. Talk a little bit about the bed and a book. This is new to me, and I'm embarrassed that it's in our town and it's new to me. What is bed and a book, and what do you do?
Well, I'm just a grunt in that regard. I'm just putting together beds.
Can I quote you on that?
You can. But as I mentioned, Annalisa Wall saw in her role in the district attorney's office that she saw victims and saw. Learned that there were some kids who just didn't have any place to sleep. They would pile their clothes up and sleep on them at night, and then they would have to get up the next morning and perhaps wear those clothes to school that are all wrinkled up, and they might get kidded or bullied in that regard. So she came up with this idea: let's provide some beds. So we provided something over 400 beds to kids all throughout the city. It is so rewarding. Matter of fact, I got one tonight or this afternoon at 5:30, and you take these beds in. Little kids are in there, and they get it. And the other thing we bring is either a police officer or a sheriff's deputy will go with us, and we ask them to kind of read the books to the kids as we're putting the beds together. So doing a couple of things, giving the kids a safe place to sleep and a solid place to sleep. Give them, beautiful comforters that maybe fit what they're interested in, either from astrology or whatever it might be. And then we give them the books that they can keep. And then we introduce them to a police officer or a sheriff's deputy in a very positive way. So hopefully we're kind of building a mindset there of fostering, good feelings about the law enforcement community. But it's amazing. We see that we'll get the beds all put together and be, 5:30, 6 o'clock. Little kids will come running in and say, "Can we go to bed now?"
Yeah.
It feels really good. And I just congratulate Annalisa and her work in doing that. It's really grown. She's actually got folks up in North Wilkesboro wanted to start a program up there, so she's worked with them. And then Boone is getting ready to start a program up there. So she's really spreading the gospel, if you will.
Good. It's good. And the nonprofit is called Bed and a Book.
Bed in a Book, right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting. Scott Sexton with the Salem Journal had done an article on this maybe 4 or 5 months ago. And in the article, Annalisa was saying we're trying to save up for money to get a van because right now we have to depend on volunteers bringing their pickups in. And some days when it's raining, we can't make the delivery and so on. Well, out of the blue, a gentleman called and said, "I want to give you a van." So here's a guy that wrote a check for, I won't say how much, but a big check for a big van that all of a sudden just wanted to do that. It was a great story too, because the gentleman's wife had just passed away, and he said he saw this as a way, to use her resources that he received to continue her legacy in a way. So that was a real cool story as well.
Yeah, I'm with you. Absolutely. So again, there are lots of people in our world that love to give, and I watch it all the time in our town, and it's pretty cool. So, all right, let's go back to business for a little bit, but business from Alan Joines' perspective. achievements. I mean, I know there's a lot of really cool projects you've been a part of, a lot of cool economic development growth, and we'll talk about affordable housing in a few minutes. Tell me one of the things that you have been really excited to see happen, and for you to be, to whatever level you were, a part of seeing it happen in our town.
Well, you could gravitate over and talk about physical projects like the ballpark, the baseball stadium, which is really cool, or recruiting Caterpillar here, or recruiting Dell here, and Herbalife. But to me, I think the thing that I feel probably as good about as any was that when I came into the office, I felt like we didn't have a clear vision on where we as a community wanted to be going over the next 10, 20 years. And so one of the things I tried to do was bring us together, as they used to say in the Baptist church, sing on the same hymnal, so to speak. Yep. So I think we've got a kind of a good definition of what we're trying to do. And that's one thing I try to do as mayor, is to articulate where we're at in that vision. Sometimes you have to adjust it just a little bit going forward. Mm-hmm. But I feel probably the best about that we are singing from the same hymnal right now as a community. And everybody's kind of backing us and helping to push that message forward. Yeah. We were, as you mentioned, rightfully, we were a manufacturing city, but we evolved into a economy based on knowledge-based industries. Yeah. And now we're kind of even tweaking that a little bit more, that I've been saying that we are a city of innovation and rapid change, because I firmly believe that successful cities will be those that can pivot, take advantage of opportunities, and really move forward.
Yeah, I'm with you. Absolutely. And if you're singing from the same hymnal, it sounds so much better to everybody. Yeah. So hey, let me do my 30-minute ad spot here. Hey, you're on Lunch Conversations with Randy and Teddy, and our guest, special guest today is Mayor Allen Joins from Winston-Salem. The show is sponsored in part by the Elder Law Firm. Listen to these words: who is important to you and how you plan to honor your responsibilities to them is important to the Elder Law Firm. So if you have family members or friends that you want to help them with their estate planning, you want to help them with their elder care planning, or if you want to help them just get those 7 pieces of paper put together and signed and notarized so that it works for them, reach out to the Elder Law Firm at 336-396-4551. Those 7 pieces of paper are critical. Believe me, I've had to deal with that. So cool stuff. So Randy, anything queued up in chat?
No, not so much in chat, but I do have, I guess, a question too, that, we go into a job or, elected office, and we have maybe preconceived ideas of how things work. And I think you said you kind of learn as you go. You're a little bit naive when you first stepped into this thing. Looking back, though, I'm sure there are times where you've said, gosh, I wasn't expecting that, but you know what? It was really cool. It worked out great. So let's take both sides of that. On the plus side, and then, oh my, I didn't really expect that. I guess we got to clean that up. Let's talk those two things. On the plus side, let's start with the plus.
Yeah, I guess I was just surprised that how much individuals appreciated the mayor coming to an event, on Saturday or Sunday, or churches that I get asked to speak at, men's clubs and things like that. So yeah, really, a nice surprise and a nice thing to understand that, the mayor's office does carry some prestige, not me, but the office, the prestige. So it's kind of cool to carry that out. And then sort of the same side of that coin is, didn't realize how many requests there were going to be. I think my staff tracked last year. I had something over 1,100 meetings. So it can be anywhere from a 15-minute greeting to speaking at a group or an event like we're doing right now. So it's some pressures there, and got to be able to carve out some time just to spend at your desk and try to stay ahead of the various reading materials that you try to keep up with. Again, thank goodness for our staff. They did a great job of providing us information and keeping us well informed.
This is the pinnacle of your exposure, is this show right here. You probably didn't realize that until I just said it.
Right.
In Randy's own mind.
There you go. There you go. My fertile mind here. But Teddy, I'm going to throw it to you. And I know you've got some things to still cover. And by the way, if you have comments or questions, if you could put them in the chat, I'll try to work them in. If they're relevant, we'll add them to the conversation.
Yeah. Let me another thought in the context of business. You said that you look at yourself as working with all the partners. I mean, you got all the city departments that are important and serve a lot of value, but there's a lot of other, I mean, Greater Winston-Salem Inc. is a huge partner in helping our city, being a part of the city. As they, I may say this wrong, Alan, so help me fix it, as they merged from Winston-Salem Chamber of Commerce to Winston-Salem Inc. and became Greater Winston-Salem Inc. I think I said that right.
You did.
Who are some other partners in town that help you help our community?
Yeah, and there are a lot. We're so fortunate here. We've got strong partners. Greater Winston-Salem. I served on that committee that handled the merger for Winston-Salem Business Inc. and the former Chamber of Commerce into a really cohesive group there. And Mark Owens is doing a wonderful job with Greater Winston-Salem Inc. Visit Winston-Salem, Rich Geiger and his staff there that puts the word out as we attract conventions and visitors to our community. A great organization as well. The Arts Council, Winston-Salem, as we had the very first Arts Council in the country, formed here in 1949. And Chase Law and her staff over at the Arts Council really work hard to make sure we've got the quality of life that helps us. And that's an important piece of our recruiting, particularly technology companies and more softer side companies, the quality of life that the individuals can have here because the company wants to know that they can recruit professionals to the cities and the Arts Council. Then we have a plethora of foundations. Winston-Salem Foundation, community-based, to Z. Spencer Reynolds Foundation, to the KBR Foundation, various Haynes Foundations. That I go to them when I need some funds to cobble together to do things. Right when the pandemic hit, I had to put in place a stay-at-home order. Yeah, and I felt like it was going to really, and you're a good example, Teddy, of folks going to impact. So I went to the city council and said, folks, I think we've got to do something to help our community during this time. And so let's put out $1 million and let's ask the community to match it. And then we went to some of these foundations, and guess what? We raised about $3.4 million to go with our $1 million. So we had something over $4 million that we were able to provide some assistance to individuals who have been displaced, particularly in the hospitality industry.
I remember that. I remember seeing that come together and then hearing about the impact that had on a lot of people's lives.
Yeah, it's one of those calls you didn't like to get. I had a message that the head of Baptist Medical and the head of Novant wanted to do a joint call with me at 7:30 the next morning. And so I get on the call, and the basic message was, Mayor, if you don't take some action, people are going to die. Yeah. So that got my attention pretty quickly. So I put the stay-at-home order in effect that afternoon.
Yeah. And there's a lot of other groups and organizations and that are out there that, every day are playing some role in creating value and creating better lifestyles and creating safety and, and having a positive impact on our community. And for me, it's just so fun to see that happen. I mean, I know you engage with a lot of them way more often than I hear about them. But again, I think it's when I moved down here in 1997, February 14th, 1997, I was working in downtown Winston-Salem, and I was starting at that moment to see that this is such a rich town of people who care. And again, it's one of the reasons why I call it my town, even though I'm 9 miles away. So,
right. You're in the metro area.
Yeah. I mean, look, the school system is not Winston-Salem; it's Winston-Salem, Forsyth County. And right. Tricia McManus is she's queued up to be on our show soon. I'm looking forward to hearing about her.
Job there.
Yeah,
November 9th. Hey, it's not been a rosy thing. You talked about the calls you got from the hospitals. I mean, it's one thing to be a leader when things are going well and we're winning, we're getting new business, the economy's growing. Then you got the George Floyd situation and Black Lives Matter, and things pivot on a dime. Yeah. And I remember, you were out in the community talking to people in the neighborhood, and leadership is more than just patting people on the back and kissing babies and all those things. There were some gut-wrenching times I'm sure you had to go through. What can you share about some of that looking back, you did what you had to do?
Right. And you can't become a leader in the middle of a crisis. I think you got to be leading up to that. You got to be establishing those relationships. And Teddy, you mentioned the connections that I've built over the years, and also our police department has done a great job of building those community connections as well. But I have a good relationship with the Ministers Conference of Winston-Salem vicinity, African American ministers for the most part, and I visit with them regularly. I attend a lot of churches there, so I think there's a level of trust that both ways there. So when this situation happened, I think it was 52 days. There was some type of a protest or a march or something, but no violence in our community. Yep. And so that's really something that I'm proud of for our community, our work of Katrina Thompson, the police chief, and the work that she did to establish those good, solid relationships. It wasn't fun, certainly. As a matter of fact, I had 2 nights in a row that I had more than 50 people showing up on my front yard at my house, protesting this situation, and went up and met with them. And a lot of it was some misinformation. They thought the mayor was in charge of the sheriff and things of that nature. So I tried to get some information and clarify, here's who handles this, who handles that sort of thing. So, but I think, as I mentioned, it's preparation, how you live, how you carry out your day-to-day functions on an ongoing basis, and establishes that trust that's going to get you through. Yeah.
And you can plan for emergencies like, hurricanes, tornadoes. I'm sure you've got disaster plans in place. And in fact, I know you do, but when things like this happen, that COVID, or, you've got protests like this, that can be a difficult thing to plan for. So the pre-planning and laying the groundwork, I think, is going to be key. What are some other things you look back and you look at some of the big challenges, social challenges, economic, you take your pick, anything you want to tackle?
Well, I think the baseball stadium is a good example.
That's a big one.
We put together a great plan there for a baseball stadium, and we were moving forward with the construction of it. The city had committed, I think, about $12 million to it, with the understanding that if the developer wanted to add to it, that would be on his nickel, if you will. We got, I guess the stadium was maybe a third underway, so to speak. And all of a sudden there was a financial issue with one of the partners. Not the principal partner, but one of the partners. It put all the loans into default. And so the bank said, Mr. Developer, you got to go back and renegotiate all these loans, get new financing. Guess what? This was in 2008, 2009, in the midst of a huge recession, real estate bust. And so, the lending community couldn't even spell commercial loans at that point. So for 7 days in a row, there was an article above the fold about the situation. And so, and by the way, it was right in the midst of, I was running for re-election in 2009. So saw the political career just kind of floating by there. But we finally worked and took about, I guess, 3-4 months, and we devised a way to restructure the whole financing. The city agreed to put a little bit more money into it. We took back the ownership of the stadium. And so I can proudly say that the way we worked it, there's no tax dollars that have had to go in to make that stadium work. The lease payments are coming into us. There's a ticket surcharge and some other things that pay for all the debt that the city has on the stadium. Recently, we had to go back and do a little tweaking with the lease, because Major League Baseball had made a decision that they were going to pare down the number of minor league teams by about 40 teams. And they were making those decisions based on the financial viability of the team. So we had negotiated such a tight agreement with our team over here. We had a little bit of flexibility. So we went back and restructured that a little bit and was able to keep the team, and getting ready to spend another $5 million right now on upgrades to the stadium. Again, things that are required by Major League Baseball. But that wasn't a fun time for those couple months as we were trying to figure it out.
You know, and any controversial topic, I mean, some people are like, hey, why should we support a baseball team? Yeah, well, you get back, and I guess, you know, you wake up every day and you put your suit on and get out there and get after it. But you know, you got to be realistic too and go, hey, look, I can't please everybody. You know, we're trying to do what's right. But you're never going to get 100% buy-in from everybody. And how do you deal with that from I guess a personal standpoint, knowing that there's some people that just go, this guy's just, no, we don't want this guy. How do you work through that as a human?
Yeah. I mean, I guess, you know, your skin thickens up a little bit. When I ran the first time, I never had run for anything, and I got 78% of the vote. And I said, people going, that's great. That's great. I was thinking, but there's 22% of people didn't like me.
That don't say it's great.
So funny, that night after the election, I got home and got back to reality pretty quickly. I was taking the dog out for a walk, you know, about 11 o'clock. And I've been getting congratulatory calls all night. And I got one, and I didn't recognize the number. I didn't have my glasses on. And so I answered the phone. And
that was your first mistake. That was your first mistake.
I know.
You know.
So the caller said, "Which Alan joins?" I said, "This is me." He said, "Alan, this is Al Gore." And I'm thinking, "Yeah, right." So I was polite, and he said, "How much did you win by?" And I told him. He said, "Oh man, that's fantastic." And so I was polite but concise. So ended the call. I go back in, get my glasses, and look at the number, and it's a 703 area code. And I said, "Oh shoot, that's Virginia." So I hit redial. Somebody answered the phone, a lady, and I said, "Hi, this is Alan Joins. I was talking with the vice president, and I think I got cut off." And so he came back on the line, and I kind of apologized for being so concise. He said, "Yeah, I thought maybe you thought one of your buddies was pulling your leg."
One of your buddies.
Call. So the thing I learned is, always think you know who's on the other end of that phone call.
Yeah.
If you're not sure, take the high road until you know that.
Amen.
Because you never know, right? So
I hung up on the U.S. Department of Labor about a month ago. They were conducting a survey, and I was part of the survey, and I thought it was a bogus call, and I hung up on the Department of Labor. So,
it wasn't IRS.
Don't do that a whole lot, but it ended up working out okay. But it was one of those things like, sure, yeah, right now, I get it. Hey, Teddy, we've got about 13 minutes left, so we've got time for some more stuff.
Another big conversation I want to have with you. I appreciate this is good stuff. I appreciate you sharing with us, and what's in front of you? I mean, I know that, you know, you can't, there's a lot of things that are in front of us that are important to work on that not necessarily ready for the public to understand. But your goal, as I heard you say, is to be a partner to represent the citizens and use the budget appropriately. So, but what's the big thing? What's the one big thing that's in front of you that's important for our community?
Well, you alluded to it earlier, and that's affordable housing. Yeah. And I think most cities around the country are seeing that problem. We had a housing needs study done now about 2.5 years ago that showed a need for almost 15,000 new units in our city over the next 10 years. So now it means in the next 8 years. Yeah. So I created an affordable housing coalition of developers, groups that represent folks who need the affordable housing, and they began working on some ideas there. I came back to the council earlier this year and asked the council to set aside $30 million of our ARPA funds, or the American Rescue Plan fund, plus a $10 million grant we got from the state, to set that $30 million aside for affordable housing and to create a measurable goal of 750 units a year for the next 10 years. And I asked the staff to do like a dashboard report that they would give to us quarterly on how many units we've done so far, how many more we got to do this year to hit that 750 goal. So that's something that we really keep our nose down the grindstone to get that done. Yeah. And it's kind of related to poverty reduction as well.
Right.
Put together a poverty thought force a few years ago that looked at our area. At that point, our poverty rate was 26%. You know, that's way too high.
Yeah.
Fortunately, that has now dropped to 19%. Again, still too high,
Yeah.
but we started to chip away at it. But we got to again stay focused on that as well. And it's kind of interrelated to the poverty reduction, to the affordable housing, kind of working together. But those are the areas we've got to continue to focus on.
We're also seeing a lot of new, well, I'll call them high-end apartments downtown.
Yes.
And those are largely in displacing some of the older neighborhoods. And so, where do these new dwellings, affordable housing, where are they looking to be located? Are you able to disclose some of that? I don't know.
Yeah. We want them to be dispersed all throughout the city. We just don't want to warehouse folks within an area. So one of our strategies right now is, as tracts of land that we can identify, 20 acres to 40 acres, we want to buy those and kind of in a land banking situation that then we as a city can become a partner with a developer to say, okay, look, we'll put the land in, maybe provide a little bit of financial assistance for you to build units here, but keeping them affordable. So that's the key to it. And downtown, the price of the property in downtown is so expensive that developers can't afford to do really affordable units, except when they ask the city to get involved. If we do get involved in a project, the developer has to agree to make 20% of the units affordable. Yeah. For instance, the project right on 4th Street at Spruce, in that area right there in front of 500 West 5th Street. Clay Grubbs is a developer doing that one. We put a little bit of money into it, and 20% of the units will be affordable. So chipping away at it in a number of ways. Habitat for Humanity does a great job for us, working with them. And again, we could provide some lots and land for them to work on. But doing single family units, it's just not going to feed the bulldog, so to speak. We've got to do multi-family projects in order to meet that need.
Yeah. So the project that's what I referred to as taking the wall down on 52 between town and east of 52, East Winston. I need to go do some more research and get myself updated of what's going on with that. I knew that was a big project for affordable housing. I use the phrase, Alan, that it's helping to take the wall down, the 52 wall that so many people refer to. So
yeah, exactly. I think you may be referring to the project that United Metropolitan Baptist Church is doing there just across 52. Yeah. They bought this big older apartment unit that had really gotten in pretty bad shape. But now getting ready to do, actually had the ribbon cutting 2 weeks ago. I wasn't able to go because I got called to the White House for a meeting on the federal funding. But it's really just right across 52. You can see it. And so I think that's one of those steps that's going to help bridge that a little bit. And also, as you know, the next thing, the big project that North Carolina Department of Transportation is going to be doing is reworking the bridges over 52 from roughly Salem Parkway up north to Martin Luther King Boulevard. I think the 3 bridges there. So hopefully that'll give us an opportunity to create more of a physical connection with pedestrian way, or like we did on some of the bridges across Salem Parkway, and really create some soft pedestrian spaces linking the downtown and East Winston.
Yeah. Make Winston-Salem, not only is it a larger community besides the city boundaries, but make that more easier access, so we can all participate and benefit from what's going on. So, Alan, this is good stuff. Randy, anything?
Yeah, I kind of have a question for you. If somebody's watching this, they're saying, hey, you know what? I like what this guy's saying. I want to get involved. I don't know where I can plug in. Are there places, people, entities that you might suggest people reach out to for more information if they want to get involved in trying to alleviate some of these issues?
Absolutely. We as a city have something over 35 boards and commissions, advisory boards and commissions, planning board to the zoning board of adjustment to the recreation parks, etc. And so we're always looking for individuals to serve on these advisory councils. And so you can go to our website, City of WS, and go to the mayor's portion of that. Okay. You can see the list of those advisory boards, and we try to list, when there are vacancies. And so that would be a good way to get involved, certainly. Or, you can send me an email and I'll be glad to respond to I try to answer all my emails. And so that would be one way. If they had a question or something specific, I'd be glad to chat with them via that.
Mm-hmm.
I dropped the city of ws.org/mayor into the chat, and I'll share that on the other spaces as well. So, Alan, this is good. I appreciate you stopping in, man. I appreciate you hanging out with us and sharing.
Thanks for the invite.
Is there one thing about Winston-Salem, one high-level thing that you make sure every time you meet someone new they know about?
It's kind of I talk about the spirit of our people. That we came from a little bit of an agrarian society, workers coming in here working in tobacco factories and in the textile factories, but it's just a real strong work ethic that kind of held on here. And citizens are proud of their city, and they want it to be prosperous and want it to be successful. And so there's this esprit de corps, if you will, that it's hard to put a finger on, but it's kind of like you used to say, the downtown's the heart of the city. I think our people are really the soul of our community. They make us a special spot. And when I'm trying to sell the city to a company looking at us, I say, look, you're going to have people doing a great job for you that you hire from here.
Yeah. I think it was Mark Owens told a story about taking a prospective business and they were walking downtown and they ran into some of our people.
Yeah.
And I think it was something along the lines of, when they saw that spirit in our people, it elevated us in the opportunity to draw that company.
Yeah, it was a downtown police officer.
That's right. Yeah.
Just interacted so well with this group and told them all about the city and took them and showed them some things, and they were just so impressed with that.
Yeah. I mean, because they expect you. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I said we code named that particular project and using the name of the officer.
Yeah. I was going to say, because they expect you or they expect Mark to say those things, but when they get it from somebody they're not expecting it from, who's not what I'll call polished, and it's not their job, it really carries a lot more weight.
I agree with that, Randy. Yeah. I used to say, if we could get our taxi drivers to be able to sell Winston-Salem, we've won.
Hey, we've only got about a couple minutes left. Teddy, do you want to do a story? Or real quick, Alan, can I ask you, take out the little crystal ball that you have. I'm sure you got one stashed away there. Is there something coming down the pike that you can kind of clue us in on? What's that crystal ball look like for the community? Anything?
Well, there's so many things going on, Randy, but I think we're going to really see some good economic announcements coming very soon, hopefully.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see some major housing announcements coming soon that will help us to push that needle a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm hopeful that we're going to continue to see the poverty rates continue to come on down.
Yeah. Keep up the good work, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming on.
Al, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody, you're on Lunch Conversations with Randy and Teddy, and our special guest today was Mayor Alan Joins. Great conversation. We appreciate the elder law firms supporting us and sponsoring us and keeping us going. Join us next week. Next week, we have Liz Summers coming on the show, and the conversation is going to be about self-care and self-awareness. Alan, thank you very much, buddy. Appreciate it. We'll talk another day. Randy, go off and make some people happy, buddy.
All right. We'll talk to you later. Thank you.
See you guys later. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.